Welcome to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast, where we help ambitious W-2 employees who want to leave their job in the next 12 months, earn $1 million per year, drive their dream car, pursue their passions, and take control of their life. We'll actually teach you by interviewing people who have replaced their W-2 income through the proven business model of wholesaling real estate, a way to earn big checks by finding discounted real estate and passing it off to an investor who has money and can give you a $25,000 finder's fee for finding the deal. We're going to give you 2 weekly interviews plus 1 expert-led masterclass in front of a live Q&A audience of the DealMachine community, people who are trying to get this journey done themselves. My co-host is Ryan Haywood, whose sales job was cut when his commissions were cut in 2019, so he quit. And his wife was pregnant at the time, so he actually took a 14-day wholesaling challenge and made $8,500 and has gone on to do 400 deals since then in St. Joseph, Missouri. I'm David Lecco, and I created a process for finding off-market deals that has helped people close 10,000 deals in all 50 states, which turned into the software platform DealMachine. Hey guys, welcome back to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast, where if you're trying to escape a job you hate and build a life you love, we teach you how to do that through the proven business model of wholesaling real estate. Now, for those who don't know, wholesaling real estate is an amazing business model because you can get started with a smaller amount of cash and it throws off a lot of cash. So if you want to do things like build a rental portfolio, etc., you typically need cash to do that. And wholesaling helps build your skills, finds real estate deals, gives you cash, and then you can actually make those longer term investments, but you create a money-making machine with a wholesaling business. And today we've got a very special guest who not only started and sold his wholesaling business, but also started the #1 education company in wholesaling, which was Wholesaling Inc. And he sold that too. And he's with us here today to give us some advice on what successful people do and what unsuccessful people do to help you navigate and stay focused on revenue generating activities that are going to give you success. And if you guys are listening, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast and leave us a review. It helps us make more content to get you to financial freedom.
The DealMachine REI Podcast. Everything you need to know to get started in real estate investing.
Tom Kroll, a man who barely needs an introduction. For the half a person that doesn't know who you are, that's why I gave you the little boost at the beginning. But everybody knows who you are, Tom, and I can't wait to hear what you've got to tell us today about what successful people do. How you doing?
Bam! Good. It is great to hear your voice, brother. It is good to hear from you, and I'll ring the victory bell for you. There's the original victory bell, and it was great seeing you at in Arizona, right? Is that where we were? Arizona?
That's right. Yeah, it was. Yep.
Very cool. So yeah, brother, it's awesome to be on. Thank you for having me. I am humbled by that introduction, and I appreciate you. And yeah, I am really looking forward to sharing some of those tips and tricks and get right to the meat and potatoes of things that really make what's needle moving. Like, what do people need to know to have real success and build wealth and build success right out of the gate instead of this long, frustrating death by 1,000 needles type of path that so many people tend to be on. So I appreciate you having me on the show. Thank you for even thinking of me, bro.
100%. I always hear your voice in the back of my head whenever I'm supposed to be working, and it says focus on revenue generating activities. It makes me cut out things like, okay, maybe I don't need to make this phone call right now to pick up my dry cleaning. Maybe I don't need to organize my CRM. Maybe I don't need to be going through my emails, right? But I should be doing revenue generating activities.
I have 87 rules in business, and I got them memorized, and they are tested and proven, and certainly come from better men and women than me all throughout history. But it's what I've used with my clients for a long time. Revenue in first position is the first one. It is absolutely tried and true. The rest of them get a little bit more salty. Number 2 is never change what works. But then we get right into number 3 is everyone is full of you know what. Number 4 is number 4 is another one, which is I shouldn't even say because a lot of people are going to get upset, which is never partner when you can hire, which is a big trap. A lot of people
totally believe in that. I totally believe in
that. So we have a whole bunch of rules, 87 of them. So we'll, but yeah, that's revenue in first position is one of the, actually, one of the key rules in anybody who's starting in real estate investing or any other adventure, which is you've got to do the a lot of people use this 80-20 principle, and it's totally, that's like a college level principle. It's too confusing. I don't really understand it. Everybody who explains it to me, they all explain it differently, like 80% of this and 20% of that. And at the end of the day, there are certain things that you do that make money, and there are certain things that feel really good, like listening to this podcast, sitting in a Panera Bread or a Starbucks and like preparing, right, to take action. But if you are sitting here right now listening to this podcast and it is 10 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday, you're going to have a serious revenue problem in about 2 weeks. So I would suggest shutting this off and listening to it tonight after 5 o'clock. And but yeah, revenue in first position is one of the differentials between the people who out of the gate, they crush it. And one of the ways to know that is how uncomfortable you are, right? Because no one has ever built anything great without awkward conversations or awkward actions. So if you're super comfortable or you're preparing, just remember preparation is a form of procrastination. And what I can tell you for sure is if you're super comfortable, you're probably not having an awkward conversation or knocking on a door or doing the hard, awkward, uncomfortable things that revenue produces. If revenue felt good, everybody would be making revenue. So it's when you don't feel good, right? When you're going to the gym and it's 5 o'clock in the morning, this is David, by the way, not me. I do not go to this is why my lifestyle on fitness is very comfortable. That's why I look how I look, and David, how you look.
I'll tell you what, another thing that you said was that a lot of your buddies who experience anxiety, they do long, hard, strenuous workouts, often outside, and that really helps out. And I think about that too. And about that time when you said that, I was getting into 75 hard. And I noticed that really did help me out, start the day strong. So are you saying you are in favor of working out or you're not? Because it's not.
I am 100%. Yeah, working out is not, I'll just leave. I'll put a pin in working out and just leave it with, I haven't figured out the motivation and willpower to work out. But when it comes to generating revenue, it really is a question of seeking discomfort. There's a difference between the person who is always in preparation mode or information gathering mode. Collecting information is very, very good. There's a lot of people who do it, right? You're in the safety net of a lot of people. So collecting information feels really good. It feels like you're about to start, but you haven't started yet. But it does make you feel like you're moving along. So really just look at every activity and say, number one, is this uncomfortable? And if it isn't, it's probably not producing revenue. And number two is this producing revenue, or is this something that a VA should be doing instead of me?
Well, something else that you said too, this is the third thing I wanted to bring up, really had me thinking. And you said you don't need an accountability partner. You are strong, right? You do not need support. What you need is to listen and learn from somebody who's done what you want to accomplish. That's probably going to be pretty controversial because it's very common to squad up and partner up with people that are on the same journey as you. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, accountability partners are there are a lot of points of failure for beginners, especially when it comes to entrepreneur stuff. But accountability partner is one of the greatest lies in business. Even the idea of it starts with the lie that you are in some way less than or not able to hold yourself accountable. God forbid you get an accountability partner. Guys, if you're listening to this and you're thinking that you need an accountability partner, I'm here to tell you, you don't. You just don't want it bad enough. I promise you that an accountability partner is not going to make a difference. You are strong. You're powerful. You're made in the image of God. And, one of the things that you can say to look at this is anybody who, sometimes these gurus and these people, they say this stuff like, get an accountability partner, but they don't have one. Or they'll tell you something like, write down your goal. You and I both know many, many, many very wealthy and successful people. I don't know one of them who has an actual written goal. I used to say to them, show me your written goal. Like, show it to me. Let me see it. Never, right? It's never happened. So what, or it's not certain something that they had just written down. So there are sometimes these things, and one of them is accountability partners. But what I would say is this: you're strong, you're powerful. Just the idea of me calling someone like you and saying, David, like, I just want to make sure that you're making your phone calls and you're waking up on time and you're going to work and you're taking a shower in the morning and getting dressed and you're going. It is so ridiculous. We've had these conversations, you and I both, and our friends with a lot of very successful, wealthy people. I've never in my life heard one of them say, hey, can you just hold me accountable that I'm making the phone call? So, I mean, even just saying it, I can't even help but laughing. Like, I can't imagine myself having a conversation with like Brent Daniels or, any of these people, right? And saying, oh, Joe McCall, or, can you just make sure that I'm going to bed on time and can you hold me accountable? No. That's not those conversations. Now they happen around people who are stalling out. They'll say, I just need an accountability partner. You don't need an accountability partner. It's a lie. If it's the most controversial thing I say, I don't care. I have the experience and I have the track record and I have the authority to speak on this. And I can say that accountability partners are a lie. What you're doing is you're just attracting another person who is at the same level as you are, and you're just pulling each other back. The chances are the person that you're going to attract, even seeking an accountability partner, is going to need one themselves. You are not capable of holding somebody accountable if you need to be held accountable. The people who you think are going to hold you accountable are not qualified to do that, because when you're with successful people, they just expect you to work hard. They expect you to do the right thing. They expect you at a conference to not go down to the lobby and start drinking with everyone else who's drinking too much. They expect you to go to bed on time. They expect you to show up and to do good work. You expect yourself to do that. When you really want something in your life, you do not need an accountability partner.
So it could actually be an example of non-revenue generating activity, right? Spending time on those types of phone calls.
Right. Because they feel good, right?
Yeah.
And they feel like you're progressing, but you're not progressing. And so, let me just not confuse this point. There's a difference between an accountability partner and a mentor or a coach. Somebody telling you what to do, who's giving you inspiration and motivation and instruction. One of the key differences between the people who are successful and the people who are not successful is who you and I and other people allow to give you feedback. When you have a successful person, you take feedback from 5 people. You take feedback from people who love you, people who pay you, people who you pay, people who regulate your industry, and people who have already arrived at the destination you want to go to. When you talk to unsuccessful people who are struggling, they're always struggling, anybody can give them feedback. An accountability partner, somebody who hasn't achieved anything, or somebody who did it the wrong way and they're like a warning. No. It's love you, pay you, you pay, regulate your industry, or have gone before you and have already arrived at the destination. I guarantee you, if you look at the people who pour into, right before this podcast started, right? You and I had a conversation. Who was the conversation about? One of your mentors who had already achieved great success. This is the people who I surround myself with. I take feedback from these people. People who love me, or people who are going to show up to my funeral. That's a small amount of people, right?
It is, yeah.
So that's it. This is another, yeah, exactly. This is an accountability issue. It's a waste of time.
I love it. So, bam, that's right. One of the other things that this actually brings to mind is you've said, don't ask what successful people do, ask what successful people don't do. So this was one example. Can you give us a few others and why you wrote that?
Yeah, so that it's interesting that you bring that up. A lot of times people are out there, on the internet, no one has to talk about their results. Anybody is just allowed to spew anything that they want, and nobody holds anybody accountable to actual results. You have poor people trying to teach poor people how to become rich people, and nobody stops and says, well, yeah, but that's like a fake yacht that you rented, right? Like, does anybody? So I think that when you actually look at what wealthy people and wealth and success, I should put this into context, are different. The definition of wealth means more and better options than other people, right? It's comparative. So wealth is an external comparison to other people, right? Either you have more of something than I have, or I have more of something. It has to be comparative. Success is totally different. Success is an internal comparison to your ideal. So there's no way for you to be more successful than me or vice versa, and it's not comparative, right? You might have more of something, but less of something that I value more, right? Like I one of my definitions of success is I love my garden. I go out into my vineyard and my garden. I like to, right? That might not be your definition, right? I love to spend time with my 5 kids. I love to do all kinds of things like that. So wealth is an external comparison to others. Success is an internal comparison to your ideals. But when you look at the men and women who have achieved those things of wealth and success, they are doing and not doing certain things. And sometimes the people giving advice online, they say stuff that sounds really, really logical, and it sounds like it should make sense. But it just turns out they're not doing that stuff. Here's some of the stuff that people are doing that are successful and wealthy. Number one, just like behind you is books I have read and I'm very familiar with, like Traction by Gino Wickman. And in that venue of Traction of Gino Wickman, there's also Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. And there's also Rocket Fuel. And there's all these other books that I've gone through and recommend and know and read and love. Wealthy, successful people read. There is not a single dissenting opinion in 6,000 years of recorded history about reading and writing. When you meet with wealthy, successful people, do you know what you see? Libraries of books all the time. Every mentor I ever had in the last decade, every single one, if you open up my phone and you say, Tom, show me all of your text messages between yourself and all of these wealthy and successful, they're all quotes from books, all of them. Like 80% of the conversations, have you read? Did you read? Are you about to read? What's the next one? So if you're just starting out on your journey, and if you were like me and you were told perhaps that you had a learning disability or that you're an audio learner, whatever that means, it doesn't even mean anything. But if you can read street signs, you can read a book. Right now, starting today, commit to 8 pages a day. Like I said, if you can read street signs, you can read a book. Start reading 8 pages a day. It's going to totally rewire your brain. Audible is great. I love Audible, but that doesn't replace reading. You can read 8 pages. If you literally physically cannot read, that's a different, I'm not talking to those people, but if you can read, anything, you can read 8 pages. It'll take a few minutes. Your retention will go up. You'll learn how to do it better. But there's little things like that. Reading and writing is one of them. Every day, just read and write. I can't tell you how, I remember when I first started, I went to a Sean Terry conference and, I couldn't afford to be there. I was totally broke. My brother paid for me to be there. And I went there, and it's so funny because I started with Nazar Al-Library and other people who were there that I'm still friends with today. Another person was, I can't think of his name, but there were a lot of Luis is there. And anyway, a lot of cool people. But I remember in that conference, everyone was like, read. The book they recommended, which is one of my top 21 books, is The 4 Spiritual Laws by Edwin Gaines, which is a phenomenal book. And Rhinoceros Success, which Sean recommended, which I'm now friends with Scott Alexander. I'm friends with so many authors, brother. It is crazy.
How did you become friends with the authors?
I think it's just by being in that world. I was at Barnes and Nobles the other day, and I was like, man, I hung out with this guy. I know this guy. I saw, my son saw Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that's somebody who, it's funny, with Robert Kiyosaki, the way I got to know him was because one of my clients was having dinner with Robert, and he said, oh, you should come. So I did. And we went to New York. We went to Delmonico's for steak. It was awesome. And Robert and I were there talking. One of his favorite books is The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And I had just read that book, just by coincidence. I had just read it. And we spent the whole afternoon talking about it. And then he was like, oh, you should come out and da-da-da. It was just phenomenal. So I would just say, if you want to have success right now, no matter what you were told in school, commit to 8 pages. Oh, and here's another key too. Because my third rule in business is everyone is full of you know what. And don't pick your own books, because 80% of books are, especially in the self-help kind of genre, are total garbage. They're just garbage. They're written by people who are promoting new ideas, or it's just basically a brochure to buy something. So it has no real value. One of my rules in business is, or just one of my general rules, one of my 87 is, only read books recommended by people who you'd want to trade places with. So, Yeah, so don't pick your own books, because otherwise you could pick up, I'm not going to name any books because I don't want to be negative, but there are some books that are very popular and you look at it and you're like, what in the world? So yeah, anyway, that's one of the tricks is starting to read right now. And some people will listen to this, they'll say, oh, Audible's the same, or I don't have to read, but I can tell you it's a real, it literally, I know your brain is an organ and it's on a muscle, but it literally changes physically your brain. Your neurons are making new connections. And
please open up your podcast app right now and leave us a review and let us know what you thought of this episode. It means so much because the reviews help us get in front of more people. And the more people we can get in front of, the more we can help them achieve financial freedom. And we also get more energy to put more content out like this to help you. So by leaving us a review, it will give you more content to come to help you along in your journey. Thank you so much.
yeah,
Right. One thing I've noticed is with the habit of reading, which I picked up last year, I read 15 books, which is about 8 pages per day. And that's the most I've ever read in a year. So I'm doing that again this year. But one of the things I realized is no matter what conversation I was in, whether it was meeting a friend for coffee or at work, it seemed like I always had just like something off the tip of my tongue that was helpful based on some book I read. And one of the things, and it's so nice to seem like you have that compass, right, to help you navigate these things that come up that weren't even expected. One of the other things I realized was, some of the books, they're not hitting for me. And I feel like it's okay to just put it down and start another one. So reading a book on the topic that's really kind of on demand, what I need to learn at that time, is actually super helpful. And if it's not that, I'm okay putting it down.
So I have 21 books. If I have it on a link, which is coachinginc.com/21 books. And there's nothing for sale. My program is full anyway. So this is not a pitch for anything, but if anybody wants, these are the 21 most proven, absolute 100% must read if you are an entrepreneur. It includes some of the greatest books, the most effective books if you're interested in sales. There's the best book ever written on sales if you're interested in negotiating, if you're interested in like general business or, if there's some. So anyway, if you guys check that out.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go there because I would want to trade places with you, Tom, because you just told me how much people pay you for coaching. And I do want to trade places with you.
Yeah, so good.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's a generous gift that I can't wait to check it out myself, having read some of the books you've already recommended. One of the things that really caught my eye that I want to know about is you say, as somebody who sold your business, you just wrote a post that said, sell too soon.
Yeah. So, there's so much to unpack there. I'll keep it really short. Here's what I would tell you. One of the smartest things I've ever heard about business is, and people will say, well, what is the greatest predictor of success? Because I've worked throughout my career as a consultant and a coach, and I've worked with all different levels of individuals, and either just starting or people who are already doing millions a year. And one thing I can tell you that I can say for sure is this: the number one predictor of success is your ability to handle pressure as an entrepreneur. It is directly tied to that. A lot of people recently were looking at this Alex Hormozi thing that he did online, and some of even my clients were saying, "Oh, how?" But one thing I will tell you is most people will never achieve, and I don't mean this is not a negative. This is actually a positive. Most people will not achieve that level of quote unquote success because they don't really want it, because it requires Alex to put himself out there in a way that requires you to handle a lot of pressure, right? That sort of level of pressure, it can be a lot, and it can break a lot of people, and that's okay. There's a lot that goes into that. Sometimes people will call that like self-sabotage, and we don't have to get into all of that. But at the end of the day, one of my mentors taught me this, and it was a game changer, which is, he calls it Seinfelding the business. And Seinfelding the business just means you go out on top. You don't have to go all of these seasons where it's a popular thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, one of my friends buys and sells businesses, and it's just interesting because people literally who hold on to businesses, most businesses go out of business, and people who hold on to a business too long, these people, he'll call them and he'll say, well, why would you get rid of the business? It's a nice business. Oh, I'm sick and tired of it, and da-da-da-da. And they'll say, well, don't your kids want to inherit the business? Oh, my kids are so ungrateful, and da-da-da-da. And what are you going to do if I don't buy the business? Well, if you don't buy the business, a broker is too difficult. I'm just going to sell the trucks in the building, and I'm just going to give it away, and I'm closing the doors. And it's interesting that Seinfelding the business, so to speak, is a really great. So sell too soon. The great Bernard, what's his last name, has a famous quote. It says, "No one's ever gone broke taking a profit." And I think that sometimes entrepreneurial people, they define themselves by what their business does, when in reality they're defined by how their business does what it does. And I think because their personality or identity is so closely tied to their business, they're really afraid to sell, and then that can lead to negative consequences. So sell too soon means there's nothing wrong with taking a profit. Life is a great adventure, but it's a short adventure. Yeah. And, that's what that all comes down to.
I think that as entrepreneurs, we're also overconfident about our future performance of the business too. And if it's on top and it's doing well, that might be the perfect time to sell.
I cannot tell you how many, this is called entrepreneurial euphoric enthusiasm. It's the triple E. This is the most deadly disease because yes, entrepreneurs to become successful have to have a very positive, like you very rarely ever meet a negative entrepreneur, right? But that positivity can turn into quickly, especially with like one success after another, especially rapid success. That euphoric enthusiasm can cause you to be going 1,000 miles an hour towards a brick wall that by the time you see, you could slam the brakes as hard as you want, you're never going to be able to stop in time. So, I think that, we would be getting into some of the rules of money, but I think selling too soon is way better than selling too late. Mm-hmm. And it induces a lot less anxiety. And, at the end of the day, like I said, life is short, and look, at the end of the day, right, if you're making X amount and you're in the top 1%, right? If you think that adding a little bit more to that, your happiness is not going to change at all, right? That too, right? So it's like, you get to a certain point where money is a game, and once you win the game of money, there's no joy in running up the score of a one game. So if it's, if you've achieved that level, and you think, you might think that, there might be somebody who's more seasoned, a more sophisticated professional who can take over the business and be better for your team and your clients than you are. And that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's healthy and wholesome and good. And, maybe you having to learn how to get to that next level is not really worth the time or interest of the company. Like, maybe that's not appropriate. And I think asking those questions is good.
Yeah. Well, let's wind it back to somebody who's listening that wants to just get started. I think it's so cool to hear from you, having started and built and, sold businesses, but you've said hustle is a season. So talk to me about this season that a listener might be going through very soon when they're quitting their job and they're about to start a business.
Yeah, this is so important. I've never met a successful entrepreneur who has any entitlement issues, right? I don't care what anybody tells you about slick marketing and scaling and what's scalable and what's not scalable. At the end of the day, every single wealthy, successful person that I've ever met and that I know personally or spent time with has gone through a season of outworking everyone else around them. Every single one has gone through this, what I call like this OCD season, where everything they do, they talk about, they focus on is 100% laser focused on this new business. And I have yet to meet the man or woman who hasn't gone through a season like that. Myself included, I went through it where, I was always, on the phone or thinking about it. It was the first thing I thought about in the morning. And I would say there's a great book on this called Business Secrets from the Bible by Daniel Lapin. And he talks about this, prioritizing this. The first thing I would say is this: you have to, you want to seek harmony, not balance. It is entirely appropriate to go through a season where all of your time, energy, money, focus, attention, resources, it's all focused on a single point and an objective, because business is hard, right? It's not about what you love. That saying, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Damn straight. You will never work a day in your life if you do what you love. But the people who focus on what other people love, those are professionals. People who focus on what they love are called amateurs.
Sure.
People who focus on what other people love are called professionals, right? So doing that is difficult and, it's hard. But what I would say is, with hustle as a season, not a lifestyle, it's something I teach all of my clients, which is this: go all in, 10x your work and your value to other people. Bring more people, more value. Go the extra mile, over deliver. If you don't go through that, here's a secret: people who want that, laptop lifestyle, right? Is that what they say? People who want that more relaxed lifestyle, they got there by going through that hard season. So I think that it's important to recognize that it is going to be hard, but to go all in, believe in yourself. You are strong and powerful. You're made in the image of God. The people are more capable and powerful. I don't have time for an accountability partner when I got started. I don't have time for that phone call. I'm focused on my paying clients. I'm focused on doing a deal. I'm focused on, you are so strong. Don't doubt yourself. If anybody, I don't know how else to say it except to say, recognize it's going to be hard, believe in yourself, and then just do it or die trying. If you really have that attitude, one thing I used to always tell my new clients is, this was in the real estate investing space, is, I'll say, well, did you do it? Did you go to the thing? Did you go? Oh, I wanted to. And I am telling you, if your daughter got bit by a snake and you had to make 100 phone calls to get that anti-venom, you'd make that 100 phone calls immediately. I don't care if you didn't even have a phone. Right? Tony Robbins always says, right, when there's a lack of resources, you become resourceful. When you really want it. So go through that season of hustle, really, bust your backside, and you'll have the luxury of success and wealth, and you can then work on the projects, and then you could, do what I love. I love to walk in the garden. Now, I wasn't doing that back then. I didn't have any vegetables. I was eating vegetables. They were from Publix, right? Or Trader Joe's, or whatever that other place is in at the cabin. But yeah, I mean, that's I think the key there.
That's amazing. Well, that's a really good way to round it out, because I know a lot of people are wanting to get started. They're going to go through that season of hustle and look forward to being able to do what they love while they actually have income from this cash machine they created of wholesaling real estate. So if you guys want a tutorial on how to do that first deal, go check out the episode right before this. We just did a deep dive on that. Two
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.